Hello, everyone. It's another day. I have more stuff to say. Kind of going along the sides of some of the stuff I said, like, I don't know, a couple days ago about me being happy to see people coming together in the last couple days, sharing information. I want to bring up this Bible verse. The one I'm using is specifically from the King James Version that one of my friends brought up to me that I believe could apply to anybody. It doesn't necessarily have to be Christians, pagans, whatever. Um, Even if you're an atheist, you could still kind of see some type of wisdom in the words. The reason I want to do this is because I think that it's a good time in history where some of us, depending on where we stand, especially in terms of, again, I'm going to say it's going to be very rare that I say anything about politics, but I'm not specifically talking about politics. It's kind of like certain people who have certain moral understandings or certain ideas about morality might stand on either side of a certain aisle or whatever. But let's get right into it. The verse reads as is in the King James Version once again. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in the high places. Now, of course, for the time that this stuff was written, it would mean something different than what it does today. It's this kind of weird thing that's the same thing with some, like, I guess you could say, fortune tellers or mediums. They can say very general terms that could more or less apply to anybody, and some people get roped into it. I'm not saying all of them are that way. Absolutely not. I believe personally that some people might have abilities that other people do not, but that's another subject. But in this case, for this specific verse, we can pertain it to, you know, today's world. Nobody's gonna think anybody is crazy if they say, oh, the government manipulates you, or the government uses its powers to keep certain groups or people, uh, you know, poor, or the government really needs your votes and they really need you to be okay with certain things. So they kind of manipulate you, or they force you to do things with the threat of violence. It does not necessarily have to be the government. It could be certain groups in the media, whether it's media, the news, or media, um, social networks, or the media as per like movies, music. You get the point. As human beings, we're highly influenced by our groups. We're highly influenced by our morals and the morals within our specific groups. Um, and these things are important to bring up. For the case of this verse, however, we say that we're not fighting necessarily against the flesh. The flesh is typically seen as stuff like you could put it in a way that it's what you're eating, what you're drinking, your vices, or lack thereof. Things that necessarily they say, oh, they're involved with the flesh. Your desires, your wants, your needs. You can fight against your desires to eat a bunch of fucking burgers and fries because it might be unhealthy for you. You could fight your desires in terms of the people that you sleep with and have sex with because one, it might cause to have children that you don't want, or that you're not prepared as an individual to take care of properly, or you might end up with a venereal disease, or some problems with whoever person's ex-partner or whatever, or that they're involved, the other person is very dangerous, end up putting yourself in a poor position because of how much you needed to either sleep with this person or that person. Desires of the flesh, as they say. You get the idea. But What you're really fighting against, and at least in the indication of this verse, is the powers that be. As we people used to say not too long ago, Big Brother, or uh, 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 whoever the hell is spying on you, or whatever, fucking daddy government. That's what you're really fighting about. Today, we've reached a point where we don't necessarily uh, have to resort to violence in order to solve these things. I would say it is even more particular as, you know, for example, men, as violent as we can be, or as prone to aggression that we can be, because of the threat of that aggression, we are forced to, as although I hate mentioning his name, and what I'm not going to mention his name. You guys who know might know. The idea is virtue. That as men, we're virtuous because we understand the threat of violence. We understand what violent men can do. So we choose to resolve things with our words, and we choose to resolve things with the things that we do, the places that we choose to work for, and where we put our general labor and, or in this case, votes, or perhaps in other cases as well. Fighting against something like a government, or let's say a tyrant, is going to be very difficult, typically because it doesn't happen in one day. It happens because of generations of people wanting a certain thing. You have um, objectivists, for example. They point out to that the reason that you want to do this is violence, typically speaking, resorts in the destruction of things. You might have either your own children, other people's children, or places of your community that might suffer destruction because of violent actions, even if those violent actions are towards an oppressive figure, government, or tyrannical group or individual. The the Bible pointing these things out, and I'm going to kind of go to the beginning of my words here. Typically speaking, as myself being a pagan, other people either being Muslim, Jewish, or Christian, and you have, of course, the atheists, and atheists typically have different types of atheists. You have atheists that are, Satanists. You have atheists that are merely or just the kind of like agnostic atheists that have no real belief in any type of spiritual, daddy power over everyone type of deal. But in the terms of us as men and men from different communities, who come from different places and have different capacities, we can all agree together that there are these powers that be, that try to control everything as per general human nature. And it's not so much that I want to give so much credit to the Christians, because I know you guys might not like to hear this, but you guys love to take credit for things that you have no part of. You know, just because I can shout out, oh, here's something that was written in the Bible that I can agree with. I'm pretty sure the same exact words can be found in multiple historical, books, or Jewish books, Muslim books, the Muslim, the Quran. They say pretty much the same type of words. So if you guys are ever out there, calm down. Um, the point I'm trying to make with this is that we can come together at this point without any other side. you know, of course, we're going to have our disagreements, but fighting against the powers that be that are trying to control, frankly, all of us, is more important than our individual differences, at least in my opinion. We are now ready, given that, as per my understanding of it, progressivism is taking over lots of Christian beliefs. I can say without hesitation that lots of Christians nowadays are falling victim to progressivism. Well, guys, this progressivism that's damaging you, it's also damaging us. It's also detrimental to us as pagans. It's even detrimental to, you know, fucking atheists. But are either one of us going to like fucking throw away our pride and say, can we come together on at least acknowledging that either the government or these powers that be are have a threat of violence? I mean, I can't make someone disappear and then never find them, right? I can't randomly have a megaphone telling the truth to someone. Next thing I know, I suicided myself because I was telling the truth. I can't do that, but we all know who can. Sure, they can kill me, but they can't kill all of us. Even if they could, they wouldn't be able to do it because they need us, the powers that be, to support, us at the bottom. We support those at the top. It's a pyramid, right? The pyramid can't exist at the top if it doesn't first exist at the wide base at the bottom, right, guys? We know this shit. We all know this shit. In any case, once again, I propose I can extend, a hand. I can say, hey guys, I'm ready to come at the table and we can talk together. I'm willing to throw my pride away. I'm willing to acknowledge that, although like for sure I'm not gonna agree with, a lot of the shit. But once again, we can fight against the same things. The principalities, you could look up the definition if you like, but it's pretty clear. Governments or structures on top that tell us how to live our lives, you know, the very same people that might get on the mic or might get on a video who say, oh, I believe in this and that, and they'll be all high and mighty. Next thing you know, they're in a car accident where they just, were in a drunken fucking raid. They ran over 2 or 3 innocent people and killed them, and they never see a day in court or, a night in jail. But if you or I did that, or, for the vast majority of society, did something like that, and we murdered a couple people, involuntary manslaughter or manslaughter by vehicle, how in the world will we not end up in jail? We know these powers exist. We know what money can do. And that is not to say that money itself is bad. I know a lot of people say, oh, money is the root of... I don't believe that it is. I believe that the root is all evil. The root of all evil, rather, is humanity's capacity to tolerate when others do evil. That's what the root of all evil is, in my opinion. Good men who do nothing. You could say, oh, Circus, you're not doing anything. Do you really know that? You could say, oh, all you're doing is, talking, on a mic, on a YouTube. Who cares about that? Well, that's just what I do here. It's not what I do in real life. What do I do in real life is none of anybody's concern but mine, I suppose, and those around me. But even if you were to say something like that, staying on this mic and saying, oh, this is the type of stuff we're saying, I'm just putting it out there with no other intention than to say, hey, here's one more person in this world as an individual who's willing to talk to others and spend time with others on this issue. There might be thousands of other people out there, if not more. In fact, I'm sure that there are. I see them all the time that feel these same kind of ways. It's kind of like the reason why censorship is a thing. It's kind of the reason why certain people are not allowed to talk. Because as many of you might know, I can't quote it directly, but it's kind of like all it takes is one person, just one person who says the truth for other people around them to start to realize the truth. So even as an individual, all of us out here as individuals, regardless if we had a power to fight against or not, we're all powerful, and we're even more powerful together. And that is why the powers that be, these principalities, these, people who manipulate the darkness, for lack of better words, the darkness doesn't have to be darkness in a spiritual sense, as per the, the verse. It could be darkness in terms of immorality. It could be darkness in terms of things that go against what we generally believe is correct or right. I don't think that anybody could deny that murder, rape, theft, shit like that, hurting or damaging, the elderly or children, that these are things that we say are, they're wrong. Whether you want to argue if it's objectively wrong or not, whatever, fuck that shit. I'm talking about we as a society, believe that these things are wrong. The same way I wouldn't want anybody to hurt or to fuck with my grandparents, or my children. Is just, even as an individual, I see the person who would do that as just a piece of shit. Why would you hurt something or someone that is so much weaker than you? Where is the feeling in that? Is that much sadist or whatever? You know, Not a threat to the sadists out there that has a whole thing, but you guys, I hope you know what I'm saying. The final thoughts on this, as we might point out to different cultures saying the same things. You know, we don't all know exactly how long ago these books were written. Some might have different ideas of it, but the go-to reasoning that I can give is kind of like this idea, or maybe a lot like this idea of either freedom or, the idea that the things that are happening today is not like a given. It's this constant thing that happens in a cycle. I don't believe you're ever going to come to a term in society, perhaps a gajillion years after me, I don't know, but at least for the next couple of 100 years, or maybe even 1,000 years, there's always going to be people in this world that we have to fight against, that we have to make sure that we draw the line, you know, and to say that you can't do this or you can't do that because it hurts, because we believe that it's wrong. You're never gonna be a time, at least, you know, once again in our next 1,000 years, that safety, where you can't get hurt, is just gonna be a given. Like it's just a law of nature that you're just never ever gonna be threatened. You're never gonna be hurt. No one's ever gonna try to steal from you or do something to you, because we're all just that, amazing, great people who do no wrong in this world, right? Come on, we know that's bullshit. Who knows if it'll ever be true, in the future.